Neno hili si hivyo. Mambo ni matatu.
Ladies and gentlemen, Raila Odinga arrived back into the country from India, and the scenes were emotional.
Bra! Oya, Jackie! We Jackie bana, Mombasa Road. Hali Mombasa Road ndio hiyo sasa. Hali Mombasa Road ndio hiyo. Jackie numbers. Oi.
There is this photo of Winnie Odinga handing over Raila Odinga to the mother. Let me just read for you how Winnie Odinga captioned it. Handing over my beloved father Raila Odinga to his dear wife Dr. Ida Odinga. This photo here is deep. I also saw another photo, the one there. In that photo, you can see the plane, and next to it, that border. JKIA is a highly secured place. You know where the plane was, but this border managed to go and receive Raila Odinga right at the runway. That is also deep. It defined the kind of a person Raila Odinga was. A plane goes for billions of Kenyan shillings. And then the border near normal people. Basically, it means Raila stood for the high and mighty and also the lower class down here. But something also happened there, which is going to form the basis of this analysis. The security lapses at JKIA. Because according to the original plan, Raila Odinga was supposed, I'm avoiding to use the word late, by the way. Raila Odinga arrived at JKIA and he was supposed to be taken to Lee Funeral Home and then from there to Parliament, then back to Lee for tomorrow. But from JKIA, it became very clear that there was no way the body of Raila Odinga was going to fit in Parliament. Raila is bigger than Parliament. So the body was taken to Kasarani. But something happened in Kasarani. I'm not so sure, but at least one person has been confirmed dead. According to news, there could be 3 or 4. And I ask myself, why? Why security lapse? Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow there's going to be a major event, but that's going to be just a rehearsal. On Saturday, Raila Odinga is expected in Kisumu here. And I want to imagine if the crowd we saw in Nairobi, the police could not manage. How will they manage the crowd in Kisumu? In this video, I want to look at why the security failed Raila Odinga and what they can do to avert a similar situation in Kisumu on Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you're watching this channel for the first time, I want to request you to subscribe because we analyze politics on this channel. And personally, within ODM circles, I was known as self-confessed Raila Odinga sycophant. I was being referred to as self-confessed Raila Odinga sycophant. Now, let me tell you why I think the security failed. Number one, Raila Odinga was the only person who was always capable of controlling his supporters. Personally, I've attended many rallies with Raila Odinga across the country. I don't think there is any part of this country, maybe Turkana. I think Turkana, I didn't go. We have not gone with Raila Odinga. I've attended many rallies of Raila Odinga. And something was unique about Raila Odinga. Because, you know, Raila Odinga's rallies are always chaotic at some point. Raila Odinga's rallies, in most cases, are always chaotic. So the moment you see Raila Odinga standing up from his seat and grabs the microphone and tells someone, stop it, munyamaze, that's always the end of it. Now, the guy who controls the crowd was in the coffin there. So nobody was able to control these people. I saw people like Otienda Molo, Ledama, you know, Sholei Boss, Babu Wino trying to control them in parliament. They could not. JKIA was just impossible. Number two, and this is something which the government should take seriously. Raila Odinga was always protected by his own supporters. For those who remember, was it in 2020? For those who remember, was it in 2017? Yes. When Raila Odinga's vehicle was hit and he was with Winnie inside that car. That was 2017. You saw those guys who were hanging onto the vehicle, but they were being sprayed. Most of those people are his supporters. And there are several. So Raila is always protected by his supporters. Wherever he goes, his supporters protect him. But they're always organized in layers most people don't know. Normally, Raila Odinga has his security team. Ogeta, George. Mostly two. I think there are normally three, Ogeta, George. And then there are those ones in the Cheska. Those are government police officers. Normally, I think as a former prime minister, he's entitled to them, but are his people. So those normally forms the first layer. So wherever Raila is, they'll always be there around Raila Odinga. Then there is the second layer, which is mostly by men in black. If you know men in black, the people who kicked those buckets during the Kasarani, when Kasarani turned into Kisirani, those guys, they're normally led by Job, Brayo, yeah. The Korogocho MCA was part of them, you know, that group. So they know themselves normally. Then there's always a third layer, which are normally local. So let's assume Raila Odinga is going to Machakos or is coming to Kisumu here. What normally happens is that we will have those layer, the inner security, then the men in black, they normally are the ones managing around the vehicle. Like they weren't today, if you noticed. They were the guys who are mostly around that vehicle which was carrying the body. So whenever they go out, whenever Raila Odinga is out, they're always there. Then there's a third layer of locals. So I was explaining to you, if it comes to Kisumu, then there is always some security guys from Kisumu. They'll form part of this team. If he goes to Homa Bay, they'll always get Raila Odinga security from. He has people everywhere. If he goes to Mombasa, the same. Sometimes if he goes to a place where he's not very popular and the crowd is a bit hostile, they normally bring some of those guys from far. Today was not managed. Why? Because all these guys were emotional. Ogeta could not manage. These other guys, you know, I saw all of them. They could not manage. All of them were crying. The men in black were pretending, but all of them were emotional. Now, the organizers failed to realize that they were in Nairobi, so they needed to involve those guys. Again, all of them were crying. So my advice to them is, if they'll be coming to Kisumu, the best thing they can do is to have those layers of security. And probably give them uniform so that they'll know the ones putting red are the inner circle, the one in yellow. Then now the security, the GSU, the police and the rest can now work with them. That's why it failed today. Number 3, and this is basically the main thing. Raila Odinga passed on, and the government was notified that he had a will which stated he needed to be buried within 72 hours. So they were racing against time. So we are talking of someone who just died. The supporters are yet to absorb that. He's out of the country. He's coming into the country. And, you know, the emotions were still very high. When they'll be arriving in Kisumu, the emotions are still going to be very high. If Raila Odinga had stayed, let's say he passed on 1-2 weeks later, people would have absorbed. Right now, people will still be fainting here. So it's going to be still difficult. So they need to figure out how are they going to manage the emotions. Because emotional people who are harmless, you don't throw tear gas at them. You don't do that. And number 4, in my view, I think the government of Kenya underrated the return of Raila Odinga. And they failed, that committee failed, in my view, in one aspect. Kindiki has never been part of ODM party. So he doesn't understand ODM supporters. They needed to have co-chair who understands ODM. Because remember, Oburu understands. But what about Oburu? Oburu was overwhelmed. He stated himself that he's just struggling. Yeah? Of course, as a member of the family, and make him co-chair, it can't work. He's overwhelmed. That's a younger brother. He's the elder brother. So an elder brother, there are certain things he has to do. And lastly, I think the fact that Nairobi leadership were ignored was also not a very good move. I don't know what you think, but we are waiting for Baba here in Kisumu. And the request is, walete Baba mapema, watu wane Baba mapema, then they should not fly Baba to Bondo. Let the convoy leave to Bondo, because Baba will spend the night in Bondo. So there's not going to be any hurry. His convoy, let people move with Baba all the way to Bondo. Bondo is not very far from Kisumu. I don't know what you think. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.